Okay, we're gonna walk and talk here, but I watched this movie last week. It was the Lion King movie. No, not the Lion King movie, Mufasa, the prequel to the Lion King. And as I was watching it, all these headcanons were going off, and I was like, holy smokes, there is so much symbolism in here. So many synchronicities between what we see in a lot of Punjabi families, South Asian families, and apparently what happens in the story of the Lion King. So number one is what I noticed in terms. Number one, let's talk about Rafiki. Rafiki was a cool dude, and he just had these spiritual abilities, but he was shunned and ostracized for being different. Now, how many times do we see that in ethnic minority cultural groups when somebody thinks differently from the vast majority and they're an against the grain thinker? Maybe they do have some sort of special abilities, but that sets them apart and they're ostracized for that. They're not welcomed into the majority group, and that's exactly what happened to Rafiki the monkey. I know this is funny, we're talking about a Disney movie, but Disney movies are notorious for having a lot of symbolic hidden messages, and in this case I feel like unpacking the psychology of this movie can be really beneficial, especially if you think about how much Punjabi culture embraces the lion symbolism. I mean, how each one of you must know at least one guy who's got the lion tattoo, or likes to put lion decals on their car or whatever. So think about, okay, Rafiki, number one, being ostracized for being different, being laughed at for having visions or spiritual abilities. That happens to a lot of people. They're kind of gaslit for maybe some innate skills that they have that maybe the people around them don't understand, until one day it comes in handy that they have a different way of going about things. Number two, the whole male dominance thing. So, oh, by the way, spoiler alerts, because I'm talking about a lot of things in the movie that obviously if you haven't seen it yet, you're not going to want to watch this video, so just scroll on through and ignore this video until you have seen it. It's so good, it's worthwhile to watch. So number two, male dominance. It's all about the king, it's all about the king, but of course this was originally made in the 90s, I think, so naturally there was more male dominance. And there was a lot of toxic masculinity in the original Lion King, but now they really show the other side and the value of being raised by a female. So when, what's his name? Mufasa is a cub and he's taken under the wing of the female, the matriarch of the lion pride, all of a sudden he gains all these extra skills that the main king, I forget his name, but the mean guy, the mean dad, was not able to provide. He didn't have those types of skills. So Mufasa ended up being a lot more well-rounded because he was raised by the female lions. Like, he's much more attuned to his senses, and that ends up being what saves him in a lot of instances. So think about how often in Punjabi and South Asian culture there's a lot of male dominance patterns, but there's so much value in recognizing the virtues that women have and what they bring to the table. That's the synchronicity number two. And number three, how that toxic masculinity, like the ego of that king lion, Taka or Scar's dad, how it really poisoned the family system, and it ended up creating a father wound for Scar, and that's why he had maladaptive decision making going forward. And it even represents how our attachment styles that we create in childhood later on inform the way that we approach our love life. So because Taka had that overbearing, domineering, and very highly critical dad, later on he wasn't able to approach his love interest with confidence. Also, he had a little bit of jealousy and resentment towards Mufasa because he saw the bond that Mufasa had with his mom, and he wasn't able to own his natural strengths, and instead was always envious of his brother, his stepbrother. So those are all things, again, that we do see in our Punjabi families. And so it's interesting to note all the synchronicities and the similarities and all the ways that the Punjabi culture, like, it's all in our music. We're all about like sher and all that kind of stuff. And this movie, I feel like, emulated so many things that we see happen in our family systems that trickle down and why people grow up to be the way that they do. Usually it is because of a father wound or a mother wound and those deep-rooted insecurities, because they didn't get unconditional love. They got conditional love, which is what Taka had from his dad. What are your thoughts? There's also a lot of greed kind of themes throughout the movie. The pride of those different colored lighter lions, they were all about territory and dominance, and they were all kind of operating out of a space of greed, which ultimately led to their demise. And what do we see in our culture a whole lot? Property wars, right? So brothers backbiting brothers who are trying to take over more and more land, all for the purpose of just satiating their kind of extra focus on having more and attaining more, and greed, the sin of greed. We see that a lot. What are your thoughts? Do you think I'm just like really reaching here with the parallels that I'm drawing, or did you watch this movie and have a few of the same thoughts too? Let me know.